All right, listeners, as promised, I am joined now by Aurora Hodges, who's one of the big experts on the AFLW, knows a hell of a lot more than what the people in the mainstream media do, that is for sure. And as you all know, we are not big fans of the mainstream media. Aurora, how you going?
Yeah, good, Ash. How are you?
Oh, yeah, not too bad. Just, cruising along. I unfortunately missed the AFLW practice matches on the weekend. Was not able to stream our game. I tried on Friday night. So that's why I brought you along, because you have a much better idea of what's going on than myself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a shame they don't show a replay.
Yeah. Look, there'll be a highlights package at some point, I would assume.
Yeah.
They usually do that. But, yeah, the coverage of anything outside of the AFL at the moment is just terrible. The VFL's pretty much unwatchable most weeks. And, yeah, hopefully the AFLW, well, that'll be on Channel 7 and Fox anyway. So hopefully that's a hell of a lot better than what we've been getting with the VFL. Just give me 1 sec. I've got to go turn my heater off. It's burning my leg. Yeah, all right. So what can you tell us about the game? I guess the first thing's probably to do with selection. We had a few changes from our grand final team.
Yeah, we've had quite a few changes this year, considering we weren't having any changes as such. We had, I think it's 10 changes to our overall group of 30. So it's quite a lot. It's a third considering.
Yep.
So we didn't. They didn't play Ali Anderson and Shannon Campbell. They were fine, just having a break before the beginning of season one.
Yeah, we already know what they can do anyway, so we don't really need to see them. We know that they bring it every week.
That's it. So straight up, the new kids on the block were really good. We had Sophie Peters.
Yep.
He got the ball quite a lot and kicked a goal off the ground. That was a really good one. She seemed to celebrate really well as well. So we got another good celebrator, which is lovely to see.
We love a good celebration here.
Yeah. Eleanor Harthill played really well. She's very tall and played her back game really well. I thought she was on top of it quite. She held on really well. And even though the game was close for most of it and we were losing for a lot of it, we came back in the end.
Al mentioned in our previous episode that she was going to do a bit of time in the ruck as well. Did that eventuate?
Yeah, she did. Yeah. So she did. I mean, no one does as well as Talia does.
No.
So hard to sort of compare to that, but she did do quite well, I thought. So she was going back and forth there. I didn't. I sat on the side, which I don't normally do. I normally sit at the end where all the bars and whatnot are. So I sat on the side, and it was on the side of the ground where you actually couldn't see a lot. So I missed out on some, and I didn't see how Luca got hurt, but she walked off after half time and didn't come back. She went upstairs, and I haven't mentioned that in any of the news as yet, but hopefully it's nothing too major.
Do you know what part of her body got injured?
It looked like leg. I couldn't tell.
Okay. Yeah, look, we probably would have heard something by now if it was something really serious, I would have thought.
Yeah, or hopefully, cross our fingers that it's nothing major again, because just awful if it's a knee or something again.
Yeah, it'd be good to see her get a bit more game time and some more games under her belt as well.
That's it. For the existing players, I thought both Kathy and Sophie got the ball a lot. They seemed to do really well with it. Sophie was on a mission. So was Ruby as well. Ruby took tackles, which she almost just bounced off people. It was really quite interesting, but she seemed to get back up and just keep going, which was really great to see.
That's good. I do love Ruby, and I don't know if I mentioned it when you were talking about Talia, but she's my favourite player at the club in the women's team. Just love the way she goes about it.
Yeah, I like Talia too. She's and not just on the field. Like, it's funny how as a woman you feel different about the women's team than you do the men. Just the fact that how they treat you as a fan. It's yeah, and I think you probably have the same experience having a daughter as well. I think I've heard you mention that before.
Yeah, it is. And like she started playing sport with adults as of this cricket season now. And the way they treat her compared to when she played junior sport, it's just completely different. It's, yeah, they're all role models for the younger girls coming through and the future generations. And yeah, the explosion of junior girls football since the AFLW has come in has been incredible as well, especially up in your neck of the woods as well, up in Queensland.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. We're getting a lot of kids from other sports coming across, which is, sort of always been the way up here. But it's, I guess, given the amount of people playing football now, the amount of females playing football, it's not just females too. We have both males and females, increased numbers. Yeah. I think that always is going to be the case when you have a team doing well in the AFL. But, it's certainly increased since when my daughter started playing. There was, one girl on each team, if you were lucky, and of course the girl got put on the other girl. That sort of.
Yeah, it's always the way, isn't it? They put the girl on the girl and they always put the Indigenous player on the other Indigenous player. Yeah, it's pretty boring coaching. It's lazy coaching in my opinion. But
it is. I must say, so my daughter played 173 games of junior football, and playing with boys taught her so much more than playing with girls. She had a lot of lessons learned there, and it was, it's worthwhile. And every time I ever talk to anyone, I always mention that if they've got a little girl, get them to play footy as soon as they can, as soon as they're old enough to play.
That's it. And look, if footy's not their thing, there's plenty of other sports now that have exploded for the girls as well. Obviously, you've got the soccer with the rise of the Matildas and well, with the Opals doing really well as well, with the basketballs exploding a bit as well. So it's good to see. You do love to see it.
You do. And NBL 1 has made a huge difference, I think, to basketball as well. I think it's localised it a lot more, which is helping, people that it didn't reach before.
Yeah, well, my kid's basketball club is in NBL 1. I'm pretty sure it's NBL 1. So, yeah, again, there's more role models there for them to look up to and whatnot. So for the game, how did it sort of pan out? You mentioned that we did come from behind.
Yeah, and I think they were going to make some changes in the last quarter that they probably didn't make. So the last years they've been making some really huge changes in the end, and we don't do so well in the last quarter. But I think because we weren't winning, they didn't bother to make those changes. I think that's a feeling. It's not necessarily from anything, but that's how it seemed on the day. Yeah,
sometimes you can just pick up on the bit of the attitude and whatnot and that sort of thing. So our recent record against the Tigers isn't real good, is it, in comparison to this game, I guess?
Definitely our bogey team. It's like the Carlton of the 2001, 2 and 3 grand finals for the men, the dodgy team back then. We lose to, but Richmond seemed to be that one for us.
Yeah, and they seem to be low-scoring games, really tight, close. It could go either way, but it hasn't fallen our way. So in comparison to those games, like especially the one, I'm going to say last year on grand final day, men's grand final day, was it? Or the year before? Might have been the year before when we played Richmond on that really windy day down at Punt Road.
I think it's the year before. Is that because Emily went and left a little bit early so she could get made up and go on grand final parade, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that was, I think that was only like 3 goals to 2 goals or something like that. It was so windy. Yeah. And it was one of those crazy games where Richmond outplayed us, but you always felt that we were a chance to win it.
Yeah, we sort of seemed to stick in there but then lose at the end to them. But I think we just needed to beat them this time, which was, good, given that it's a pre-season match and it's just goes into the season well, I think.
Yeah, it's a good chance for the fans to see the new girls, but also for the new girls to get a bit of a run with the existing players and get used to the system and all the other things that happen out on the ground as well.
That's it. And there weren't a lot of goals kicked. I think it was 5 goals to 6, something like that.
Yeah, that's all right for a pre-season game, though.
Yeah.
Were they shortened quarters or were they full length?
I think they were full length. They seemed to go well, and seemed to be quite normal orders.
Yep. What about Richmond's team with their selection? Did they have a pretty close to a best lineup, or did they have a few lesser known players in?
It's really embarrassing, but I didn't even look. So all I can say is that gosh, I've forgotten her name. Number 4, she gets the ball every time. It's a 50-50 call. She gets
Conti
every single time. It's not 50-50. It's more like 98-2.
Oh yeah, no, she's the darling, isn't she? She's like the Nick Dacos of the women's comp. Gets a lot of the ball, doesn't necessarily do a lot with it, but everybody goes nuts over except for us.
Yeah. It's a bit frustrating, but and well, she was definitely the standout in that team. I think doesn't seem to anything in that regard has changed.
Yep. Oh, look, at the end of the day, a win's a win, isn't it? So we start our season proper in about 2 weeks. Is that right?
Sunday week. So.
Yep. And home game?
Home game, 3 o'clock, I think it is. It's quite late for a Sunday for us, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, look, it'll get a bit of, I guess, the whole round will get a bit of free air on TV because there won't be any men's footy that weekend. So that's good to sort of kick it off. Hopefully a lot of people get down. So that's at Brighton Homes.
Yeah, it's at Springers. We still call that. So it kind of stuck, that name, and I think people are still still calling it that, still getting down there. We had more numbers than I thought we would for the match, considering it was an evening kind of match.
Yeah.
So still not a lot, probably less than 1,000, but still a decent amount.
Yeah, look, it probably helped that the men were, both the VFL and the AFL men were playing down in Melbourne as well. That sort of freed up a few people that thought, I want to see some footy this weekend. So, this is going to be good. Competitive game against Richmond, as they always are. So hopefully that gave, if any people were new to the women's game, that gave them a bit of a taste of what's to come, and they start coming out more and bring their kids as well.
That's it. A lot of new faces, though, that seen before were there. So that was good to see. Actually they all show up Sunday.
Yeah, well, so is that a grand final rematch against North Melbourne? Did I get that right? Coming up? Yeah.
It's they actually listened and did the first game back and went to the end, so everyone can sit down and watch it.
Yeah, they should do that in the men's comp every year as well, in my opinion.
They should do that. It's surprising that they don't. I know they seem to do it in some sort of weird time, around 7 or 12 or something odd, and it makes you wonder what the thoughts are there. But I did read about them using some sort of computer in America that decides which should be on. That's how they make those decisions. But
the fixturing in all levels of sport in Australia just leaves a lot to be desired. At all the professional and semi-professional levels, it just makes me scratch my head sometimes. You're a big NBL fan like myself, and sometimes you'll see the Bullets or the Kings play over in Perth, and then the next game they're up the other side, and then the next game they're down in Adelaide, and that's all within less than a week. And that sort of thing's going to happen in the AFLW this season. So they've condensed more games into the same amount of weeks. So how do you think that's going to play out?
It's horrible. I think they're using the AFLW as a guinea pig to see, what they can change. And, it's the shorter games and, the rule with the, I can't remember what it's called, the rule where the ball goes out and it's the other team's ball.
Oh, is that like the lasso or something like that? Yeah.
I think. I thought I'd hate both those things, but I actually am used to it now, and it's just sort of normal. That's okay. It does make me wonder if they will do those kind of things in the men's. And I know the men, they want to have a shorter game. The Players Association want to have a shorter game, so I'm assuming the the male players get older, they probably don't want to play as long. So I'm gathering that that's where that's coming from. But
Yeah, I think when they've got the extra couple of teams, they will go to shorter games. And that'll be interesting to see how that plays out for the women as well, whether Tasmania come in straight away into the women's comp when they're doing the men's, or if they wait a couple of years, let the women's comp grow a bit more. I can see arguments for both sides.
Yeah, and look, I don't really know a lot about Tasmania other than it's got 200,000 members already, which is huge.
Yeah, that'll drop off a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure it will, and they won't get that many. Obviously, you can't get that many to a game, but it'll be interesting to see. Their women's comp, and if it does join at the same time. I have a feeling like they want it to join at the same time just for consistency. But
yeah, that makes a bit of logical sense, doesn't it?
It does. It does make sense. Even if they're not great, I think they will help build them. Which I don't know, that makes perfect sense to me. It's just a shame people like Wusher and Gibbo didn't get a chance to play for them, but I don't know if they're going to be involved somehow as coaching.
Well, Wusher's coaching the junior girls at the moment, isn't she?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I haven't kept up with her in the last little bit, but last time I saw that's what she was doing last year.
Yeah, I spoke to her probably about 2 months ago, and she did say that she's fairly busy with some coaching, so I'm assuming that's what it was. Because I know her name was sort of bandied around a bit, but I did actually ask her to come on the podcast, but because of the fact that she was busy coaching, she wasn't able to at the time, but did say she will a bit later down the road, so that'll be good as well. But yeah, look, I can also see the argument that, some people say the AFLW expanded too quickly as it is, and there's plenty of arguments to support that. But then there's also other arguments to say that that's what we needed, but I don't think they've gone about it the right way. I think they don't play enough games, they don't get paid enough money, don't get enough support in the media and everywhere else, and that's league wide, not just our club. Yeah,
that is the media thing is quite scary. Girls have had to endure, and and not that I don't agree with the whole statue thing. That I actually was in Melbourne recently. I didn't get to see the statue, but that Taylor got. It was. Yeah, I kind of found that kind of strange as well. But at the same time, then I think they could have put something up that was more meaningful to all players rather than something that was just to one player.
Well, unless there was, sorry, go on.
Yeah, receive the same kind of harassment that she got, but I'm sure that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of misinformation about that statue in the media, and so people were just sort of wrong with it because that's just what the mainstream media tells them. But it wasn't the AFL or the AFLW who built it. It was NAB. I mean, NAB's the sponsor anyway, so it's basically the same. But I have seen it up close. It's not that impressive. It's not as big as I thought it would be. It's not small either, but yeah, it's in a pretty prominent place at where it is. But I thought it would be bigger. But all the vitriol around it on the online trolls and so forth is just pretty crazy. And then every time a woman does anything now, not just in sport but in anywhere where they achieve success, the trolls just come on and go, "Oh, just build her a statue." Well, why not? It's not enough. Women don't get enough recognition for the things they do. I mean, all these trolls are little boys who couldn't live without their mummies anyway, so they don't realise how important women are in their lives.
Exactly. It's pretty scary that this comments are still going on in this day and age. I struggle to understand where they're coming from and where how they come up with these comments, because no one would be alive if it wasn't for women. Being pregnant for 9 months and then giving birth to them and raising them. So it's quite shocking to me, but.
Yeah, but you do see now a lot of males and young males as well calling out that behaviour, which is it's not enough, but it's getting there, and it will happen more. And so I'm involved in a new cricket club this season. We have a women's program on the junior girls coordinator there, and the attitude of all the male players towards the women, they treat them like they're the same. There's no boys and girls; it's everybody's part of it. And I can tell you now, as you know, you and I sort of both got involved in girls' sport around about the same time, and the attitudes back then compared to now are just vastly different.
Shocking. My daughter umpired as well, and the umpiring, coaches like abusing her, male coaches, and that kind of thing without having any repercussions at all. Nothing could be done about it, was what I was told, which was just, useless and not okay.
Yeah, and look, I've done a bit of cricket umpiring, and that's bad enough, the abuse you cop there, but in football, it's so much worse. And look, the AFL is trying to stamp it out, but down in the lower grades, it's still pretty prevalent. All right, well, on a couple of positive notes, I've had a couple of questions come in for you. Someone has asked, who are your 3 players to watch for our club this coming season?
Oh, well, if Luca's okay, Luca, because she's amazing. She only had a few games before the end of the season, and then she was injured in the last one. So Luca, if she's okay. Sophie's always amazing. They're all amazing. It's like asking me to know my favourite child. And just Talia as well. I think, her rucking, she's always working on her craft and just seems to be improving so much every year. So, those 3.
And a few of the boys got asked, a few of the boys in the AFL team got asked recently who were their players to watch. A lot of them said Belle Dawes. Right. They all sort of had the same opinion that she's just coming into her own now. I agree with that as well. I think last season was a massive breakout season for her, and I think she's going to get better. And
I say that about so many people, though.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, I'm a big fan of Poppy Bolts as well. I don't know why, I just am. And obviously, Ruby, we're in the number 29. It's always going to be a favourite of mine because that's my favourite number. But I've been listening to a lot of Jade Ellinger and Ellie Hampson on their podcasts that they do, getting a really good understanding of how things are for them and what they have to go through in their pre-season, which seemed like it was pretty tough and when they went on the camp and so forth. But so from that, I've got a bigger appreciation of Jade Ellinger. I was always a fan, but I'm a bigger fan now. I think she's going to have a massive year as well. She seems to be really primed. She seems to be happy within herself, within her life and her relationship. And I don't know if you've listened to her podcast, but she did speak about how she went through a lot of troubles sort of during the last season with her relationship, and that sort of matured her a lot. And now that's going really well for her. So I think she's going to come out firing on top of the ground as well.
Oh, I totally agree. I think differently to boys, girls play better when they're happy. And I know boys play and it sort of makes them happy, but it's absolutely underrated how much girls play sports better if they're already happy outside of that. So, and Jade, she's just amazing. She, always remembers everything that you ever say to her. She's just one of those people and she never stops. I'm really hoping she has another good year this year. You could ask me about any player and I just love it.
I know. We know anyone who knows you knows how much you love it, and that's why I asked you to come on, because I mean, you know the ins and outs, and you're probably the most passionate from sort of our side of the coin. I know everybody knows Fernie, who's a Collingwood fan, but a fan of every other club as well, and I think you're our version of Fernie. So. It's great, and obviously your knowledge of what's going on is great as well. So the other question I had come in was, who is the team to watch, our biggest danger for the season?
Oh, this is where I will let you down, because I'm so badly biased. I really don't look too much at the rest of the world. I should. And it's actually hard to go on looking at it still, I believe, from an AFLW point of view, because there's not as much media out there, you're still only sort of getting the one view. You're not getting views from other teams unless you look into their sort of local podcasts and listen to all of them and do all of that, which is not something I do. So I'm going to leave you with it could be anyone.
How about just take a guess, pick a team? Or who's the team you least want to lose to? The one that's going to make you turn cars over in the street and set fire to shops and stuff.
Melbourne. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, so I will not ever believe that grand final win up here was a fair win.
Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting game, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. But
I think our rivalry with Melbourne is even though obviously we've had a lot of more grand final history with the Crows, I think it's more of a friendly rivalry with the Crows. There's a bit of camaraderie, but yeah, the rivalry with Melbourne, that there's a lot of hate there from the teams and from the fans as well. And
great.
Obviously the way the media pump Melbourne up as if they're the greatest thing of all time, it pisses off a lot of people who support other clubs as well.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. They get all this love for no reason, and it's not that I don't like them or think they won't do well or anything like that. I don't think anything of any team. I just struggle to understand where all this love comes from all of the time, and was it just a Daisy thing? Is it continuing, since then?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see this year if it is just based on Daisy, because obviously she's now got a head coaching role. And I know you said you're not up to speed on what other clubs are doing, but how do you think she'll go over at the Eagles?
I think they'll get more wins than they did previously.
Yep.
Probably not as much as she would hope to begin with, but that's not surprising given it's a young club that sort of, went behind last year than they should have.
Yeah, look, I think everybody knows now that Michael Pryor wasn't really the man for the job. Didn't do a great deal to develop that club going forward. I think he was just there to get a paycheck. So, look, my personal thoughts are that Daisy will improve their culture. Love her or hate her, whichever your opinion is, I think everybody agrees that their culture will improve a great deal. And it'll be interesting to see when young Sylvie grows up where she heads, if she becomes an Eagle or a D. Hopefully not a D.
I think she'll be a D without doubt. I'm really looking forward to seeing any of the mums have children playing in the footy. What I'm interested to see is how that works in terms of rules of who had the child and all that sort of stuff, if they're going to get involved in all of that. Because, there are mums out there that are all different kinds of mums who've played. Will be interesting to see how that goes. Yeah,
look, I think the rules would probably just have to be a case of, well, if you're a parent of this person, where even if you're not the one that gave birth to the child, as long it's got to be the same rule. It's got to be a blanket rule, like that none of the dads gave birth to the children, did they? And yet their sons get to play under the father-son rule. So, and the Mackay girl at Carlton, she got to get picked up when it was her dad who played there. So, yeah, and look, the time will come. It won't be that far away either, really. Probably another, 10 to 12 years before the first one comes through, maybe. Possibly.
For some of the older women. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how it would work with any of the sort of the state league players that were around sort of just before the AFLW came in.
Yeah, it's one of how far they'll extend it out.
Yeah, because, if you look at the outside of Victoria in the men's comps, if their dad played in the Quaffle or the Waffle or the Samford or whatever, there's sort of a bit of a ruling about that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like the Adelaide Crows, for example, have picked up some father-sons that were sons of blokes who played for Glenelg, for example, or Norwood or whatever. And I know over in Western Australia, they've still got some sort of, I don't know if it's a blanket rule for every state though. And well, we picked up Carter Michael at the Lions under a similar sort of thing as well. His dad played a lot of quaffle games back in the day. So I don't know the exact rules, so I don't want to make myself out to be an idiot here, but you would assume that that's, I guess, a bit of a testing ground to see what they do with the women as well once all that starts to happen.
That's it. And I think the most exciting thing will be the first mother-son rule happening. Because although it's, it's going to be great with the mother-daughters and all of that kind of thing, I think the first mother-son rule will be the most exciting because it totally crosses over the women producing children that are good enough to play the men's.
Yeah, and that just adds a completely new dynamic to it all. I'm actually pretty excited about that as well. So we could potentially have a couple come through. Obviously, well,
5 years or so, because I think there was someone who did have a son who was around the 12 years of age. Mark, they played in the beginning. They played in the first couple of years. I can't remember who that is now.
Yeah, but I mean, even beyond that, we're going to have obviously Shani Webb's youngster and Lutzie's and maybe Gibbos or Sam Virgos. Maybe we might still be successful, then they might want to come to us. And
yeah, that'd be all right.
Yeah,
Sam and also the Port Adelaide coach.
Lauren Nell.
Lauren, yeah.
She was my favourite actually when she played for us. Being a little bit older than the others, I kind of related to her a bit. So, and she was lovely too to talk to. She
was so lovely and smart and just talking you through the coaching. Easy to talk to. Really like Lauren.
Yeah. Look, I don't think I've met any of the women's players that I haven't. A couple of the Melbourne players have been a bit shirty, but we've seen them on their own time, so that probably explains that. But yeah.
And again, women are different to men. There's reasons why people are, the way they are outside of footy, and they don't have the same support that the guys get, which is kind of understand, but at the same time, I guess it all does come down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. And, hopefully within, I guess, well, obviously it's going to happen within our lifetimes because we're not that old, we're pretty young, but hopefully within sort of a short time frame, the women do start getting paid enough so that they don't have to work part-time jobs and they do get to play a full season against every single team because, I mean, that's so annoying. You don't get to play every team every year. And
yeah, that's frustrating. I must say the women working still does give me excitement because they still, I guess they have more reason to have to fight for their spot because they're not in it full time, and arrogance and I'm not sure that that's just a woman's thing or if it's a, not getting paid a bundle kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is still nice at the moment.
I think because that's the way it's always been that we as fans are used to it and we've just become accustomed to it. Whereas I think as the generations come through and the generations are coming through now through the under 18 comps and so forth, eventually they will have to be full-time athletes and get paid accordingly. And it'll be well deserved when that happens. And I mean, that'll change the dynamic. Obviously the game will be better to watch for those who don't like it at the moment. And at the end of the day, I mean, football's football to me. I'm a male, but I've got sons who love watching women's football because it's football.
It's just a different game to me. It's the same sports, but it's just different.
Yeah.
And it's basketball. So I love watching the men for their power, their dunking, that kind of thing in the men's basketball. In the women's basketball, they have a lot different game to what the men play. it's the same with footy. You know, it may not be as fast and they may not score as much, but to me that doesn't really make, you know, that doesn't make the game. It's not about that. It's like there's a lot more to it. You know, a lot more excitement in, you know, getting your friends, you know, playing together and playing well, you know.
I think the crowd atmosphere as well at the women's games it's completely different. I'm not going to say it's better or worse. It's completely different, but it's always super positive. There's very little negativity. Like, I can't even really recall having to pull anyone up for being a dickhead in the crowd, like chucking negative comments over the fence or whatever at a women's game.
No, and I don't think a lot of people would put up with it. I think that's the thing, is because a lot of the people who traditionally come to these games are family members or friends or football players themselves, you know, or partners, you know, and they're not going to put up with people being nasty. And I think that was probably the case 100 years ago with the men, but, you know, it's a lot different now. But yeah, I agree. It's certainly, you don't hear it happening. People don't. You do see that online, but people are weaker online than they are in person.
Yeah, it's a bit of false bravado, let's face it. And yeah, it's when you're not face to face with someone, it's a lot easier to say things that you wouldn't normally say, you know, in person. So yeah, all right. Well, I guess that kind of sums us up. But one more thing. So, and I already know what your answer is going to be. Prediction for the season: where are we going to finish? Are we going to win?
I reckon we're going to finish third on the ladder.
Yep.
End of the season, and I reckon we'll take it out. I didn't get into it today, but I've got a garage I converted into like just a rumpus type room, and got some jerseys framed of the two premierships. But I've got another space that I've got, and I won't fill it until we get a double premiership. So I'm hoping this.
That'll be good. What about your prediction for the club champion? Put you on the spot there, I know.
Yeah, I reckon it could be. I reckon Sophie.
Yep. Can't argue with that. Look, I know she didn't get a hell of a lot of the ball or get too many accolades from the grand final, but I actually had her as probably in my top 3 players, just for the work she did off the ball as well. Yep. And
don't necessarily when you're not at the games. So you would have noticed at the games she does a lot of stuff, and they're not. The cameramen are just not picking it up. Yeah,
that's right. And like, you know, in the men's team, Jasper Fletcher, he plays the same position as what she does, and he does the same thing. You see, like Sophie getting back, helping out the defenders, getting forward to kick goals as well. Yeah. And hard to disagree with her potentially winning the club champion. I think I would have had her in my top 3 options as well. I hedge my bets a bit. I can't just pick one like you. Yeah, no, that's good. All really good information there. So we'll wrap it up now. And unless you've got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, go Lions.
Do you want to give your Facebook group a plug?
Oh, yes. So we've got a women's Facebook group called Brisbane Lions AFLW fan group. Give us a hoy. I think Ash can put up a link, can you?
Yeah, I can. I'll put a link in the description for Spotify and Apple, so people can click straight onto that. If not, they can just go do a bit of a search as well. And
make sure you answer questions, otherwise you won't get in.
Say that again. Sorry.
Make sure you answer all the questions, otherwise you won't get in.
Yes, that is correct. I've seen you post that a couple of times, and make sure you behave as well, because Aurora's got a very large band stick for dickheads. She doesn't tolerate them, and that's fair enough.
Not at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully I might see you down my way. Well, not in my town, but in my state in a few weeks' time, in about a month and a bit's time.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Hopefully we've got a reason for you to travel down.
Hope so. I booked my airfare, so hopefully it works out.
Yeah. Look, I probably won't be able to make the men's grand final this year, just money-wise. Because I flew up to Brisbane not that long ago. That was
missed you.
Yeah, no, look, it wasn't the greatest occasion for me. Unfortunately, with my dad passing away while I was up there, but yeah. But look, he would have been rapt that we beat the Crows that day. With the family, his side of the family coming from South Australia, he always took great joy in knocking the Crows and the power off.
Nice.
Yeah,
Work lines.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and yeah, we might have a chat to you again as the season goes on.
Sounds good. All
All right.
right.
No
Thanks.
worries.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for coming on. We'll see you later.
Bye.